Welcome to another round of devotional in our Bible study, even as we continue in the book of Job. And today we're going to be looking at chapter 3. It's quite chilly here, and I'm sure that you're all enjoying the August break with the cool air and, of course, not too much rain. This morning, as we jump into chapter 3 of our book, I just want to just do a short, read a short portion of chapter 2 that is going to help us to land into chapter 3. And today we're looking at the test of our faith. And under it, we're going to be looking more on how we can normalize emotional honesty. Okay, we can normalize it, make it normal. There's something wrong in people crying. There's nothing wrong in people expressing how they feel. There's nothing wrong in people, expressing even sadness, even disappointment towards God or towards things. We live in a society where, things like this are seen as taboo. They were like, oh, you are complaining. I remember one of the sermons I preached a month ago. I said, can we stop using, that word? Just the way we use it is very, 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 very bad. Because it's not every expression of emotional disappointment that is called complaining. All right, but when we do those things, we used to shut down our emotions. So because of that, people don't express. When you have a pressure cooker that expresses itself, when it's filled, it expresses gradually. You can keep it in a very good control manner. But when you cover the lid and you jam everything, eventually it will explode. So a lot of time we see people exploding because we don't allow them to express themselves. How did Job chapter 2 ends? After he lost everything, the Bible said Job did not sin against God by accusing God or by cursing God. Job did not curse God. Now, but in verse 11 of Job chapter 2, he said, when Job's three friends, those are the Bible called them, give them a name. Bible called them miserable comforters. Miserable comforters. These are not the kind of comforters that we need to be. And today I'm going to be giving you a little bit of a class on grief. How to handle grief counseling, just a little bit, because we don't have time to do a full, to go into full work into it. So when his three friends, but I thought there were four, but the three ones are the one that did not represent God. These are the people. If you are quoting from them, you are likely quoting from the theology of devil. All right. So when his three friends, Eliphaz, Temanite, the Temanite, Builder, the Shuhite, and Zophar, the Ananites, when they heard all the troubles that had come upon their friend Job, which is good, they set out from their homes. I mean, they came from different places. They set out from their homes and they met together by agreement to go and sympathize with him and comfort him, which is what we need to do. When we hear tragedy come on any of us, we are supposed to rally round, to go and show our sympathy and also comfort. But of course, sympathy is all about saying pele. So right now we are beginning to learn that the difference between showing somebody sympathy and showing somebody empathy. Okay, so sympathy is just saying sorry, bele. But empathy is putting yourself in their position to feel what they have felt. Anyway, in verse 12 says, when they saw him, from a distance, even before getting there, they could hardly recognize him. Were like, is that? It can't be Job, but it looks like Job. He's their friend. They must have eaten together, drank together, had parties together, traveled together, do business together, but they could hardly recognize him. Then they began to weep aloud. When you see calamity, there's some calamity that you see. When they say something happened to someone, you say, let me go and see. When you get there, you cannot hold yourself. They began to weep aloud, and they tore their robes, and they sprinkled dust on their head. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days. Now, this is how to show empathy. They sat on the ground for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him. Why? Because they saw how great his suffering was. This was probably the best time that they spent with Job. 7 days of going down to where he was, okay, of putting themselves in his shoes, of sprinkling dust, throwing his clothes, sitting where he sat, they will sit. That is how to show empathy. Empathy is not you staying on your high horse, calling somebody to come up to where you are. Hey, don't worry, come up, don't worry, God will take care of you. Well, you don't understand. First, you have to go down to where they are. You have to put yourself in their position. And after 7 days, after this, now we are now in chapter 3. After this, Job now opened his mouth. You see, when you suffer grief, there are circles that you must go through. So some of you that have done grief counseling, you know what I mean. What I mean. So think about it. I'm here in Jos. What if somebody comes to me right now and said, "Oh, Emmanuel, your car, they've stolen your car in Lagos." I will say it's a lie. I will say, no, it's not possible. Or even something else. Yesterday I was at the conference. They were like, those who are traveling by Arik Air, today, please get here by 10 o'clock because your flight is at maybe 1 o'clock or thereabouts. Then somebody said, they just got a text message that the flight has been moved. It's now 4 o'clock. People say, that's a surprise. So grief does not work the way we think it works. The first thing, the people, in grief counseling, we're told that there are 5 levels of grief, of where we respond to grief. But as people began to study grief, we now find out that there are some other emotions that were not captured. The latest survey that I've seen, revealed that there are 11 ways that thing goes. Now the 5 are still captured there, but there are other ones that were not. Now, normally the first thing we're taught is that when you grieve, when something happens to you, you grieve over a loss. Okay, you don't grieve over something you gain. You grieve over a loss. Even if you lose your biro in examination, you are going to write examination. You lose your car key. You lose your ATM card. You lose your phone, which is you lose your phone. So whenever you lose something, you lose your job. You lose your health. You lose that. Anything you lose, okay, anything you lose, you grieve over it. So grief is a natural response to losing something that is valuable to you. Now, in the traditional grief cycle, that we have 5 stages. The number 1 stage is denial. Ironic. It's a lie. When you hear something bad happen, it's not possible. But they now find out that before you say it's not possible, you're going through a silent emotion, and that is called shock. That is shock. Before you shock, before you even talk, you are in shock. And many times when people are in shock, they cannot talk. The last thing they can't. There's no word. So Job obviously was in shock. Now people pass through shock. They now go through. Maybe it's not possible. Have you ever lost, let's say, your key, your car key? Let's use the word misplace. You misplace your car key, or you misplace your wallet, or you misplace your passport, or you misplace, and you go to your bag and say, nobody's in this bag. Haven't you gone to search that bag once? You search it twice. You search 3 times. Sometimes I say, why am I searching this bag? Because you are still hoping. Even places that you have looked before, you still go back again because you are hope. So from shock, people move to denial. And when they get to that denial, they now, that is called the numbness. It be part of being numb. You can't do anything. You are numb. You are confused. That's where apathy comes in. Then from there, you now move to the second stage. And on that second stage, you now have bitterness. You have solemnity. That's where bitterness, injustice, everything. You now feel betrayed. Sometimes you might feel you betray yourself. If to say I know, I will keep this thing here. If to say, I know, I wouldn't have had that business with that person. If to say, I know, so you feel betrayal. But I trusted you. I trusted myself. I thought I knew there's betrayal. I said that betrayal that is hurts. And that's why you now become sadness now comes in. There is sadness. And from sadness, you now begin to blame yourself or someone. Guilt and shame. Inside that guilt and shame, there is confusion. Then at that point, you now begin to ask yourself, don't tell me what I'm doing. You now begin to question yourself. And that's why there's identity crisis. And after that, you now begin to search. Then you now get to a point and now come, okay, I think I accept that thing is gone. Then when you now get to acceptance, that is when you can now release yourself. And as you release yourself from all that burden, you now begin to gain understanding. And as you begin to gain understanding why that thing happened, why, despite the fact that you prepared so much for that job, you still didn't get that job. Despite the fact that you are the most qualified, for that promotion, you didn't get that promotion. Despite the fact that you wrote the exam, you read, you not pass. You begin to understand. Then you now get some peace. Then you now get forgiveness. Under that, part you have the identity crisis, and when you have that for forgiveness, that is where you begin to reflect. You begin to reflect. You need to look at what's the purpose that this is trying to teach me. So you don't start your grief by saying, "Oh, what is this trying to teach me?" If you start by that, that is a misplaced grief, Sasako. You are going to come back to it again. So at that point, you now begin to now reflect. I say, what have I learned from this thing? Okay, what resources can I gather? And then you now go to now forgiveness. Whatever must have happened. I am now on the upper vector of this thing. I'm now doing well. Then your optimism will now come. And when optimism comes, that is when healing will now come to you. And when healing comes to you, that is when you are free. And that is where that now becomes your new normal. Okay, I'm going to live without my phone. I've tried everything. It is stolen. It has been blocked. Whatever there. Let me move on my life. So the new normal is that I'm going to live with this phone that I don't have. I don't have this phone. I'm going to live with this disability. I've lost a leg. Nothing I can do about it. You've gone through that. But I'm going to live with this. I'm going to live with that. That's it. So it is not right for us to rush people's grief. It is not good for us to rebuke people that are grieving. That why are you grieving? Okay, the Lord give it, the Lord take it. You see, that was how Job began. Job began by, okay, the Lord give, the Lord takes. Then boom, he hits him. Then he now had to now go through that cycle. So while his friends were there with him, I believe that time gave him time to begin to reflect. And eventually he opened his mouth. And chapter 3 is what Job said. And I want all of us to listen carefully. To remember, he's a righteous man. A man who does what is right. The Bible said in verse 1 of chapter 3, after this, Job opened his mouth and he cursed the day of his birth. That was, I should not even come here. I wish I was not born. Now, he didn't curse God, but he cursed himself. And what did he say? He said, may the day of my birth perish. And the night that said, a boy is conceived. Hey, he's a boy. May God punish that night. That day, may it turn to darkness. He probably quoted his birthday. The day, the month, the year. May God punish that, that day. May God above not care about it. May no light shine on it. Because remember, as the story began in chapter 1, his children are used to celebrating birthday. Let's go have your birthday. Well, so he told us to celebrate his birthday. He said, make that birthday, like my mom would say, make it born. He said, may gloom and utter darkness, claim it once more. May a cloud settle over it. May darkness overwhelm it. That night, May thick darkness seize it. Even for night too, may thick darkness seize it. May it not be included among the days of the year, nor it be entered in any of the months. In other words, let's erase that day. Maybe it's the 2nd of February or the 3rd of March. In fact, they should blot it out forever. When they get to the day before, they just skip. He said, may that night be barren. May no shout of joy be heard. Obviously, you can tell that Job was born in the night. All right? Job was born in that. He said, may those who curse days, anybody who they curse days, may curse that day. Those who are ready to rouse Leviathans, may its morning star become dark. May it wait for daylight in vain. It must never see the light of day and not see the first rays of day. For it did not shut the door of the womb on me to hide trouble from me. You know why? You know why I'm cursing that day? That day should have stopped me from being born. That day that allowed me to be born. I was born in the night. May that day not see the light. Because this guy, look at the suffering he went through. He didn't just lose the stock market. He didn't just lose. He lost everything that he has. Everything. And to think about it, this guy was a righteous man. So the question people normally ask, why do bad things happen to righteous people? And somebody answered that question, Nicho Guaya. You can remember Nicho Guaya. He said, why shouldn't it? Because it is the righteous that has the capacity to handle such things. The unrighteous will go and commit suicide immediately. And Job said, for that day did not shut the door of the womb on me to hide trouble from me. Why did I not perish at birth and die as I came from the womb? Why were their knees to receive me? When they want to give birth, the woman will bend his knees. People will go down wherever. He said, why were their knees to receive me and breasts that I may be nursed? Then in other words, so what is the use? What is the use of the pain that my mother went through to give back to me? What is the use of her nursing me? What's the use of sending me to school? What the use of me, whatever, if I'm going to end up like this? He said, for now, I will be lying down in peace. If that happens, I'll be gently lying down in peace. In fact, the daughter, is something that my daughter said one time. My daughter said to me, I said, Daddy, when she was in primary school, they used to watch all this high school, musical, all these teenage, whatever there. She actually thought life was going to be like that. She thought life was going to be like that. It was when before she finished secondary school, she was telling me, she said, man, life is hard. She now entered university. She now saw how life could be. I mean, my children, the way I raise my children, I basically only pay their tuition fee. I maybe do a few things over there, but allow them to take care of themselves. There's one day that my daughter came, and of course she schools from home, so she goes from home because she has to walk. Her oven is in the house. She had to walk and school. There was one day after doing everything, she traveled all the way from Anthony Village. This was towards her final year, all the way to Unilag. She got there and they said that the lecturer has cancelled the class and postponed it. People were like, okay, let's move it. But that was telling me how she rebuked some of the students. He said, do you think I'm like you guys? Some of you, your parents bring you to school. Come and pick you to school. Me, right now, I'm going to Sabo. I'm going to Sabo. I have to walk. So any lecturer that comes here must come, and whenever it comes. So I want you to think about that. So why will I leave my house to come for lecture? And the lecturer said, then why did I leave my house? Why did I leave? So that was what Job was offering. He said, if you have not given to me, if I have known, I would have stayed gingerly in my house, be baking my cake and be doing whatever there. That was what my daughter was thinking. In the same way, for Job said, for now, I will have been lying down in peace. I will be asleep and at rest with kings and rulers of the earth who build for themselves places now lying in ruins. With princes, I'll be lying with people that have gone. With princes who had gold, who filled their houses with silver. Or why was I not hidden away in the ground like a stillborn child? Okay, number one, he said, I shouldn't have been born. Okay, even if I'm born, I should have been born dead. He said, I should be born dead. They just buried. If I'm not going to go to, quote, paradise, which was what was describing, if I'm not going to go to paradise to go and enjoy, but at least leave me in the ground. Like an infant who never saw the light of day. There, the wicked cease from turmoil. You see, from having the hope of an afterlife, Job now switched to, when you die, you just die. There's nothing they happen. Nothing they happen. So he switched from, if I was not born, or if I was born there, maybe I would just be in heaven. Like my daughter would say, or my children, he said, I was in heaven enjoying. Then you guys brought me into this world. I said, how do you know you're enjoying? You know, so from imagining I would have been in somewhere in paradise enjoying with the kings and princes that have gone far. They now moved to, they would have just left me. I would have just died and remained. Remember what Job, what David said? He said, do not abandon my soul in Sheol, which is the grave. Okay, there are about 4 words that are used to describe, quote, what they call hell in the Bible. Every time you see hell, it doesn't mean hell. I mean, I'm happy that right now most Bible translation are going to translate it better. But if you look at the old translation, like King James Version, they just put hell everywhere. Hell could mean 4 things. It could mean Sheol, which is the grave. Because when you just die, just stay there. It could mean Gehenna. It could mean that part of the dead in the chamber where the righteous will be on one side, wicked will be on one side. Their torment begins from there on, And that was what Jesus Christ was describing when we were talking about the rich man saying, Lazarus, please dip your hand and come and quench my thirst. They could still talk to each other, but there's a separation. They were in the grave. Or it could mean Tartarus, which is the lake of burning, sulfur. That is where things are finally extinguished. The soul will die. But the Bible says, do not fear the person who can only kill the body, but no, not the soul or the spirit. But fear who can destroy both body and soul in Tartarus, hell, that part of hell. Anyway, that's just me, going off. He said, there the wicked cease from turmoil, and there the weary are at rest. Captives also enjoy their ease. They no longer hear the slave driver shout. Even people who are slaves, at least they are better than me. He said the small and the great are there, and the slaves are free from their owners. Why is life given to those in misery, and life to the bitter of soul? In other words, why can't we just stop existing on our life then? Why is light given to those in misery? What's the point? So what are you going to do with the light? And why is life given to bitter of soul? In other words, we should just die. That's what he's saying. He said, to those who long for death that does not come, who search for it more than for hidden treasure. You see, this is the voice of a man who is grieving, and I want you to listen to the things he's saying. If somebody in your ministry that is grieving begin to say this to you, will you stop that person from talking? Won't you say, you don't say that? But the Bible does not say that. So today, I hope I'm going to stir something in us today that's going to help us to begin to understand. A few months ago, over a month ago, when I talked about, on Men's Day, on how people grieve, and I use Job as an example. I use Moses as an example. I use, what's his name again? Jeremiah, all those guys, even Jesus as an example. We need to learn about honest grieving. Honest grieving. It talks about those who search for it more than hidden treasure, who are filled with gladness and rejoice when they reach the grave. There are people today who are begging to die because they say this is not. Like one of my friends, the mom died not long ago. She was over 90 something years old. He will tell me that each time she wakes up, she'll be like, she'll just be upset. Why? He said, I'm still here. It's like you are here, people are cleaning you up, people are wearing you pampers, people are whatever. So what kind of life is this? I can't move, I can't whatever. Is dying not better? That is how also people grieve. He said, why is life given to a man whose ways is hidden, whom God has hedged in. So why am I alive? See, all my life, look at what's happening to me. Why are you giving me life? For sighting has become my so sighing has become my daily food. What is sighing? Just like you wake up, that's what I eat. My groan pour out like water. What I feared, and now listen carefully. This verse 25 probably reveals something in the life of Job. And I'm going to read it now. I want to think about it more. Later on, I'm going to try to explain it. In verse 25, before we ended that chapter, Job now said eventually, what I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. I have no peace, no quietness. I have no rest, but only turmoil. Soak that up, a little bit. What Job feared all his life, that's happened to him. It don't happen. What Job dreaded the most has happened. So we are crossing this threshold now from the chapter 1, chapter 2, a narrative, like a prologue. If you did the literature in English, we move from that prologue to now we move from chapter 1 of prologue. Then we now see what's happening in heaven. We saw what the court of heaven was happening. Then we're now going to this unfiltered poetry of human suffering. No filter. When we put filters on what we say, which is not a bad thing. But see, children don't have that. I remember I've shared the story before. Our son was probably like 3 years old, and we had the land, and there was a disciple that was crippled, and the disciple could barely walk, and was managing to walk. And I was greeting this disciple, and my son said, "Daddy, look, I like his cuts." That's what my son said at 3. His cuts, his leg is cut, because the leg was deformed. And I said, and I was like trying to. Then the disciple said, and I said, "Can you please tell Henry your leg is not cut?" Then I explained. You see, an adult will have filter. So when something happens to you, you filter it. But when you become a child again, you say things the way it is. So this thing is bringing us to this crucial dimension, or what I call biblical spirituality. This is true biblical spirituality. And that biblical spirituality is the necessity of emotional honesty before God. Be honest before God. How are you doing? So many times we maintain composure, which is also good. Job maintained composure. He was just there, quiet. The Lord gives, the Lord takes. In the name of the Lord, be praised. And he worshipped. That is called dignified worship. And he worshipped. And all through this initial wave of tragedy, he was still processing it. Now, eventually, it now dawned on him. After 7 days, 7 days of complete crushing silence. He was going through that denial. We're like, pinch me. No worry, this is not happening. Don't worry, maybe tomorrow I will sleep, I'll wake up. Then it will be all a dream. He still woke up, but like he was still going on. Then what he did was numbing himself. Know how you sleep on your arm and the blood flow is disrupted. Then when you wake up, you cannot feel your hand. That is called you numb it. It's now numbed. So right now the numbing, when people are going through this one, they give them injection. When they are violent, they give them injection. Now when it wears off, now all the numbing, all the holding your body, living by faith, all the numbing has worn off. And now what happens that the full weight of agony was now flooding his subconscious and consciousness. So what will you do? Bible says, after this time, Job opened his mouth and he cursed the day that he was born. Now look at the surgical precision. He cursed the day he was born. He didn't curse God. He cursed the day he was born. He wished that day would have perished. He questioned why did I even die at birth. He described the grave as a place where the wicked cease from their trouble. Even the wicked don't have trouble. Me, the righteous, I'm here, I'm having trouble. Let me go to where the wicked are. Think about it. And that was why he concluded. I didn't conclude with this raw, let's call it psychological diagnostic. I'm looking for words. You begin to diagnose your mind. He said, for the thing I greatly feared has come upon me. What I dreaded the most has happened to me. I'm not at ease. I am not normal. So look at the life of Job. All those sacrifices that he was doing, even when his children went to go and do the party, that was just in case. This guy was ultra religious, zealous. Is it possible, and I'm not saying that, I'm right. Is it possible that Job in his life became so self-righteous? Within that self-righteousness, there was fear. Fear of going broke. Fear of losing his land. Fear of losing his livestock. Those things that you fear the most, Satan knows also. And those are the things. No matter how rich he got, he was afraid. Oh, hey, one day, what will happen to me if I am broke? No matter how healthy Job was thinking, hey, what if I fall sick today? But you see, but the good thing is that God has made space in his word for people to pour out their pain. For people, God has shown us that biblical faith is not denial of sorrow. It's not a denial of sorrow. People think, and that is, and like I said, this book challenges the Pentecostal idea that bad things should only happen to bad people. That good things will always happen to good people. That is why when these pastors, when they are sick, they want to go to hospital, you don't know. Because they're telling you that sickness is not your portion. But when they are sick, they have private physicians that come to their house. Or you hear them say, oh, they're traveling abroad. They want to go and see their doctor. Many of them, when they are losing their eyesight, you will not know. They don't want to wear eyeglasses. So they are not projecting this thing to them. They have a screen in front of them projecting it. But they're not telling you. Because everything that they've told you that is not your portion is becoming their own portion. So biblical faith is not the one that denies sorrow. Biblical faith, I would say, is that courage to voice out your deepest anguish directly at your Creator. God, I am not happy. God, I don't think what is going to be is fair. God, I don't think I don't deserve this. You pour it out on God. So faith is refined in our deepest emotional pain. I look back at my life at sometimes, and I've gone through pain. I have gone through pain in my life. I've got pain that are unimaginable. Okay, I have been beaten, before. I've been many times from childhood, bullied almost every day. My chair in the classroom is the only safety that I have. I'm in the classroom. I don't say they normally pair us boy and girl. Of course, the girl there could not bully me, but the boys were bullying me. During break time, I will stay in class because if I step out, because the teacher is always in the class also. If I step out, they'll bully me, so I stay. I've had a chance when my dad bought me this nice German red pencil, very beautiful pencil, and I used to write. And one of the bullies came to that pencil and broke that pencil. I couldn't fight back. I've been arrested, before. I've been beaten by police people for preaching the gospel. I've had guns pointed at me that if I don't stop preaching, they're going to kill me, and I didn't stop preaching. I've been locked up in prison. I've gone through a lot. And when I go through all of those things, I say, God, why? You see, Those were the times that my faith was refined even the most. So authentic biblical faith is not you, having this stoic detachment, just like what Job started with. The Lord gives and the Lord takes. No, that's not authentic faith. Authentic, biblical faith is not emotional suppression. It's not pretending that agonizing loss does not hurt you. Oh, let's just move on. And many times we've tried to build people that way. That way. People who don't share the emotion. People who don't say it's hurting me. So Job, does not just go and paste some superficial, slogan on his wall. Or just smile, put a smiley face. It is well in the name of Jesus. I'm not saying that it's not good to sing those songs. But if you are doing that to suppress what you're rather, first of all, opening up, then that grief is waiting for you one day. So true faith is refined in the furnace of deep emotional pain. Why? Because that is when he chooses to bring the raw lament to God. You bring it to God rather than walking away from it. Many people today, when they go through grief, they walk away from God. Grief is when we should run to God the more. When you are grieving, that's when you should go to God. Like I tell people, hey, listen, whatever you go through is fine. Whatever you go through is fine. But make sure in your struggle, do not struggle outside God. Struggle inside God. So somebody was heartbroken. They wanted to find a spouse and they are married. And that marriage didn't work. Or the marriage didn't work. And this person stopped coming to church. What has your relationship with one person that didn't work out has to do with God? When you became a disciple, you didn't even know who this person was. So crying out in anguish is not the opposite of faith. People say, when you cry, those say, no, you don't have to. No, that's actually faith. So crying out in anguish is actually your faith wrestling with the misery in the dark. Like that woman that said, give me a child or I will die. So today I affirm that today, the 21st day of August, I resolve to bring my unfiltered emotions, my deep questions into God's presence. I'm trusting that my faith is being refined through every season. I will bring it out. I will not hide. Ask yourself, have you been suppressing your genuine grief? Have you grieved genuinely? Your genuine exhaustion, your genuine disappointment. Have you been suppressing under the mark of superficial religious strength? I tell you, man, I practically was running for 31 years of my life as a minister, moving home 13 times. I want you to imagine somebody moving 13 times in 29 years or 28 years. And there were times I've said, I'm really exhausted. I was rebuked. Hey, bro, the Lord is so strong. Don't say that. And I said, hey, I can't continue this way. I am fatigued. He said, no, you're not fatigued. I said, can I change my role? Can I change my role? The burden is becoming heavy on me. I was doing 4 jobs. The burden is heavy on me. I was told, no, there is no position for that. You can't just be, I can't be a teacher. The only role we have is this, and that. I said, but I'm going to die under the weight. No. You see, the same people who tell you no, if peradventure you die tomorrow, they will come and be sharing you and I. You see, why do we love the dead more than we love the people who are alive? You see, there is always a sacred space for lament. And that's why Job chapter 3 demonstrates that God welcomes our unfiltered question. There are questions in our hearts. Unlike this religious circle that we have, people often feel, pressure to offer. Let me offer some polite. You rehearse your prayer. You want to see your prayer should be nice. You don't want to say what is in your mind. Say what's in your mind. Your heartbreak, your disappointment. Because God desires truth in the innermost part. That's what the book of Psalms tells us. You desire truth in the innermost part. Look at through the Psalms, the life of Jeremiah, even Jesus Christ, the God of Gethsemane. Lament was revealed as their legitimate holy language. Lament is a language. He said, why have you forsaken me? Don't say that about God. God does not forsake you. Now, intellectually, I know that God does not. The Bible says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. But this time, I felt, God, I feel you have forsaken me. That is genuine. That's how you feel. That's how you feel. So pouring out your sorrow before God, it actually honors God's identity. It honors your ability to carry the full weight of your humanity. God, this is who I am. So affirm with me this morning that today, I, Emmanuel Emeh, call your name. I resolve to practice authentic lament. Authentic lament, knowing that my tears and honest cries, they are safe within the compassionate ears of my Heavenly Father. God will never rebuke you from being honest. God does not rebuke anyone. The Bible says that God is close to people who are broken-hearted. So ask yourself today, are there unspoken sorrow in your life? Or some silent frustration that you have been hesitating to voice out honestly, before God in prayer? All of those things. Let me tell you something. I voice those things out every single day. When I feel frustrated, I take to God. Even yesterday, I did several times yesterday. I take to prayer. I said, God, this is it. This is that. And finally, all of us need to learn to rest when the storm removes or ease. You need to learn how do we rest when the storm is removing everything. If verse 26, Job confess, I'm not at ease, nor am I quiet. I have no rest, for trouble comes. So when sudden storm disrupts my peace, when sudden storm disrupts your peace, or it begins to dismantle your daily your routine. Let's say this is how you might do your thing. As what just happens, it scatters everything. Then what happens is that panic will just wipe away. It wipe away. It begins to whisper to you that God has abandoned you. Say, why this happened to me? Why did I have to miss my flight? And this ticket is not refundable. I have been in that position before. But Job's story proves that, the absence of immediate emotional ease does not mean a distant divine presence in your life. For the fact that God does not come down, doesn't mean that He's not. God is there. Like they say, the examiner is usually quiet during the examination. The invigilator is always there. He's there, but doesn't say a word. So even in the midst of unrest, in the midst of confusion, God remains sovereign. He is seated on His throne. God is one that is holding the unseen blueprint of your restoration. God knows the answer. The examiner knows all the answer, but He will not tell you, unfortunately. I wish He tells me, whisper to me, but that would be Ojoro. All that God has told us, that faith is being sure of what we hope for. Faith is the certainty of what I do not see. And I would say without faith, it is impossible to please Him. So because of that, I affirm again. I affirm that today I resolve to anchor my soul in God's sovereignty. I will anchor it even when my mind is overwhelmed and my circumstances offers no immediate ease. I know right now there's no help that's coming, but I'm going to anchor my faith. The call to action for us today is for all of us to bring our honest emotions before God. Your honest emotion. When we finish this devotional, go on your knees, pray silently, openly. If you're alone, strip away all religious performance, all polite pretense that is in your mind. Deliberately, set aside maybe that 10 minutes, like I might say 10 minutes is all you need. 15 minutes at most in a private space. Then after you finish praying, or if you don't want to pray, you are too overwhelmed, then write an honest letter to God. Write your thoughts to God, your disappointment, write your fears, write your unresolved pain without filtering them. Write them the way you feel, just like Job. Then lay that paper before God. I've done that many times. I'll just say, God, this is it. This is it. And as you lay it down, I want you to pray, Father, you know the full weight of my heart. I do not hide my pain from you. You already know them. Today, I bring my honest emotion to your presence. And I'm trusting that my life is in your hand. And I trust everything. God, take care of me. Amen. This is where I'm going to stop today. And we have a few more minutes to do some sharing. How are you guys feeling?